Meloni. What's the significance of this meeting that's taken place, given it's just the day after Meloni also spoke with President Donald Trump?
Good evening, Josh. I think it's very significant. First of all, that JD Vance is being sent out of America to talk to other countries. I think that's very important. One of the criticisms of the Trump administration is that they were very inward looking. But the fact that he's gone to Europe is significant. The fact that he's met with Giorgia Meloni is strange because, as you say, President Trump only met with her yesterday. So he's obviously chasing her around the world. He could have given her a lift in Air Force Two, but they clearly want a dialogue. And the fact that he is going to meet her is important. She doesn't hold any official position in the EU. She's not president of the Council. She's not president of the Commission, clearly. But she is obviously the political leader, apart from Viktor Orban, who is closest to the views of the American administration. So I think it's important that he's gone there. The whole of the EU is waiting to see what's going to happen in the next 90 days. That 27% tariff is going to be something they're definitely going to discuss. And I'm sure she discussed it with President Trump in the White House. And he obviously has a chemistry with her. So he sent Vice President Vance to Rome first. He's then, of course, coming to India on the 21st of April. Which is going to be an even more significant visit because India is the biggest trading partner with the United States of America, and it's currently got a surplus of 45 billion. But this seems to be the Trump administration reaching out and seeing whether they can consult with key figures, clearly friends of their administration. He's chosen to go to Rome and not to Paris or London, and that's pretty significant. He's not taken up the offer, though, of President Zelensky that he should stop by and visit Kyiv, which one would have thought would have happened given the current situation. But this is very positive for the EU and for India that there is going to be a person-to-person dialogue. Whether he calls the shots, I think we all know there's only one man in the world who does that, and it's going to be President Trump who will decide. But JD Vance is obviously a very influential figure in the Trump administration, and what he says carries enormous weight.
Yes, Keith, I want to build on something that you raised there, and it's Giorgia Meloni's position in these ongoing geopolitical disputes. Of course, her politics somewhat align with those of the Trump administration, but she's also been involved in talks with European leaders on the situation in Ukraine. So how important can Giorgia Meloni be in bridging the gap where we already know, of course, European and North American ties have worsened since Trump's administration has come into power?
I think she's extremely important. Rome has never really played a critical position as far as the EU is concerned. It's always, when Britain was in the EU, it's always London, Paris and Berlin. The fact that he's gone to see her shortly after her visit to the United States is very significant. And she seems to quite revel in the role that she now has. Italy has got a stable government, and that in itself is very unusual. And she is very happy to be on the world stage. And she's, I'm sure, delighted to be the pivotal negotiating partner with the Trump administration. It's as if the EU have said, you know, why don't you do it? You get on best with him, and therefore you have to have these negotiations. But she's obviously been chosen because of Trump. She doesn't have to ask the permission of Macron, who we know she doesn't particularly like. She's not got the same politics as Keir Starmer, and Merz is not yet Chancellor of Germany. So she is the obvious person to go to. And of course, Vance is a Catholic, and therefore the opportunity of spending Easter in Rome is every Catholic's dream. And I say this being a Catholic myself. If you can't celebrate it in Bethlehem, or in the Middle East, in the Holy Land, then the next best place is in Rome. So he's obviously doing that as well, and making sure that the Catholic vote understands the significance that he's been to Greenland. After Greenland, he's come to Rome, and then he's going to India. That's some kind of a list that they're following.
Absolutely, Keith. I do want to end our discussion on this trip and these meetings that are going to take place looking at immigration, it is something that both the Italian administration and the American administration currently in power are strong on. We know, of course, Trump's continued sort of action against migration and mass deportation plans. We also know that Giorgia Meloni has set up a camp almost for migrants to be sent to in Albania. Are there any further things that these two administrations are aligned on, and how might those relationships strengthen?
I think you're absolutely right, Josh. This is a big issue for the Italians. I know it sounds odd to call them the Achilles heel because they're not Greece, but they are the Achilles heel as far as migration to the EU is concerned. The boats go from North Africa into Italy. People travel from Italy to Western Europe, to Spain, to France, and eventually they get on boats and come to the United Kingdom. So this is a big problem, and the Italians are getting very tough, not only with deportations, but if you're an Indian citizen listening to this program, you will know that it is actually quite difficult to get a visa to go and even visit India for legal migration. I was approached by a couple of people who themselves have said it is quite difficult to do this. And that's because they're tightening up on both legal and illegal migration. So this is a common factor. What the Italians can do about it is not really clear. Berlusconi, Meloni's previous predecessor as prime minister, did a deal with Colonel Gaddafi. He basically paid the Libyans to keep the migrants in Libya and to stop them leaving Libya and coming to Italy. Of course, we know what happened to Gaddafi. All the European powers conspired to get rid of him, and he's no longer there. And therefore, the migration problem has become bigger. But that's going to be an easy win for them. Agreeing on stopping the migrants is one thing. Josh, the difficult thing is to make sure it actually happens. And we're talking here about illegal migrants, not legal migrants. So it's going to be quite an agenda for Vice President Vance to follow. And he'll be talking basically to a mirror, because Italy and America are on absolutely the same page.
Keith Vaz, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing your insight. I hope you enjoy the sun in Goa. We will